I am constantly amazed at the impact meal prep has on my life. I'll be the first person to tell you how much work it can be to cook and clean all in one day, but the trade-offs for me are always worth it. There's really no feeling like starting my week off knowing all my meals are ready, healthy, and delicious. I make foods I love, prioritize nutrient-dense ingredients, balance macronutrients along with micronutrients, and explore global cuisines. I save time, money, and reduce my decision fatigue week after week, month after month, and year after year. If we haven't met yet, hello, and if we have, welcome back. I'm Lisa, a New Yorker who works in the health and fitness industry. Through nutrient-dense, high-protein meal prep, I fuel my active lifestyle without the constraints of food rules. Living in the hustle and bustle of NYC and working in the health and fitness industry, I've found that meal prep provides the clarity I need to focus on what matters to me, helping people establish health-promoting behaviors like meal prep and strength training. I love empowering others through preventative health practices that make a big impact and lead to improved health outcomes. I use my master's degree in public health nutrition from NYU to stay up to date on nutrition recommendations for individuals and populations. There's endless nutritional misinformation and fear-mongering around nutrition, so I'll help you sort through the noise. If you ask a question and I don't know an answer, I'll research it and circle back to update you. You can probably tell I'm a little bit biased toward meal prepping, but you have my support to find out what works for you. For me, I found what works for me, and to me, healthy means saving time, energy, and money to align with the life I'm creating. Leave a comment below sharing how you define healthy. Meal prep isn't just a routine for me, it's a true passion. I believe in sharing my authentic journey. Wait till the end of this video to see a behind the scenes view of my kitchen after I finish meal prepping. I love sharing insights into my process, and also I love learning alongside my incredible community. All of you share the best tips and tricks. Your comments, questions, and support mean the world to me. Don't forget to like this video, share with a friend, and subscribe so we can do it all together. And with that, let's begin. I'm trying something new this week that I've been wanting to try for forever. I'm making high-protein bagels for breakfast, and the ingredient list couldn't be any simpler, although I don't quite have the ratio down to perfection. All that you need for these are flour, baking powder, salt, and cottage cheese. I added everything but the bagel seasoning, and you can add whichever topping you like. I have to admit, I was highly skeptical because I'm a New York City girl, and if you know this about New York, you know that New Yorkers take their bagels very seriously. So I know what great bagels taste like, but honestly, these turned out so well, even for being a new experimental attempt. Don't worry, I'll keep working on it until they're perfection. You'll see I fumbled through it a bit, but overall I was highly impressed at how they turned out. And I'll also take a second to point out this is my most favorite cottage cheese from Trader Joe's. The low-fat one is the best. I think it tastes way better than the other ones in terms of flavor, texture, everything. And I've had so many cottage cheese brands at this point. Give this one a try if you haven't already, and I'm confident you'll love the price and the taste. I took my rings off here because I decided I was going to try mixing it with my hands and like kneading it in the bowl, which might have been a mistake, but like I said, this first time making this was really just an attempt at figuring out what I needed to do. I feel like I also figured out what I shouldn't do as well. And here we have it. We finally got to a decent place, a place I was happy with. So I'll set it to the side, let it rest, and wipe down the counter. Then I'll get some of the things I need to form them into little bagels. So I'm gonna get out my dough cutter. Is that the name of it? And I'll prep my sheet pan with some parchment paper. I've got some flour down on my counter and I'm going to divide this into 10 bagels. Tried a few different methods of turning these into little bagels, and I think the one that worked the best was forming them into little dough balls, flattening them, and then breaking through a little hole in the middle. At this point, I was pleasantly surprised at how well that turned out, and I'll get the counter wiped down, and I'm going to do an egg wash on top of these. I mentioned it earlier, but I'm adding everything but the bagel seasoning, which is funny since these are going on bagels, so I suppose it's a little ironic. But I also figured that if these didn't turn out well, at least I know everything but the bagel seasoning would. So there's a little close-up of how cute and delicious this one looks, and I'll finish the egg wash and the seasoning on the rest. At this point, I really didn't know what to think, but I did think, they're so cute! And I'm gonna throw them in the oven, toast them, and cross my fingers. Making my favorite sheet pan eggs to accompany my little bagels in the oven, so I get out my parchment paper, get my sheet pan prepped, and then I'll get out my vegetable I'm gonna put on my sheet pan. I'm using my favorite bag salad from Trader Joe's. This is a cruciferous crunch one, and I'm gonna use about half the bag. I'll crack some eggs into my large liquid measuring cup, add some salt, whisk them all together, and pour them on top. I'll use my fork to kind of flatten the veggies down a little bit and make sure they're all covered in the egg mixture. Next, I decided to add some everything but the bagel seasoning to these eggs as well, and once I do, I'll get them into the oven. And now we're on to the next task. I had some water boiling in my electric kettle, and I love using this method because it really does bring the water to a boil so fast. So I'll pour that in, and then I'm gonna add in some chicken breast, and I'm gonna boil that on the stovetop. I wash my hands and sanitize my pan off camera. While that boils away on the stove, I'm gonna get my sheet pan prepped with some parchment paper for my next meal, which is gonna be flank steak. I haven't cooked with flank steak and meal prep in a very long time. You might have noticed I don't really cook a lot of red meat, so every once in a while I'll grab some steak or some ground beef or something like that, but this one felt like a fun one. I wanted to make some flank steak fajitas. I had one portion of fajitas in the fridge and another one I had frozen and had thawed that, and I'll just put it alongside the one that wasn't frozen. And now it's time once again to wash my hands and sanitize the counter. And what might you ask is next? I am making roasted plantains alongside these steak fajitas. Growing up, I never even tried plantains. I honestly didn't even know there was a difference between these and bananas, but my husband really loves these, so I've learned to cook with them over the years. And one thing I've learned is that the ripeness of the plantain matters so much to what you're making. So for this, what I'm making today, I want them to be a little brown, definitely soft, but if they're green or even like just yellow with no brown, they definitely won't be soft enough for what I'm doing with them. Once I remove the peel, I'm going to slice them into little planks and they'll roast really well on the sheet pan this way. Now that I've got a few of these cut up, I'm going to top them with some olive oil. I'll drizzle it on top of my flank steak and my plantains, and then I'll season them up. I'm adding 2 of my favorite spices here. I've got some citrusy garlic from Trader Joe's. I love this one. Look for it yellow with the blue lid, and then of course some cayenne. I'll sprinkle some salt on top, and then this will go into the oven to roast. Now it's time to remove my sheet pan eggs from the oven, and I'll set them aside to cool off. My bagels are also done, and as I pull them out of the oven, I was impressed. Truly couldn't believe they turned out looking like real legitimate bagels. I added 1 bagel into each meal prep container, and later I realized I should have let them cool off, then sliced them before I put them into the containers, but all good. And I'll also show you how I serve them. I added some hot sauce to the top with a slice of sheet pan egg, and how fabulous does this look? Okay, and back to meal prep day. I'll get some white rice cooking in my rice cooker while I continue on. I'll prep my sheet pan with parchment paper and get out of the freezer a bag of corn and cut peppers. I'll get these spread out under the sheet pans, and I'll add the same seasonings I added to my fajitas and plantains, the citrus garlic and the cayenne, and into the oven they'll go. I'll get back to cutting up the remaining plantains, and as I do, I realize I won't be using these hard or green ones today, and instead I'll use the browner, softer ones and set the green ones aside to ripen for another usage. Just like lots of other produce, you could technically use these today, but they won't be enjoyable for this recipe. So I'll continue on and get the ones that are ripe sliced up into my little planks, and I'll put them into a bowl. Since all of my sheet pans are currently busy, I've got these in the bowl, so I'll drizzle them with some olive oil and add my seasonings, stir them, and set them aside. Now that my eggs are cooled off, I'll slice them up, portion them out, and free up my sheet pan. I added fresh parchment paper to my sheet pan, and now I can add my remaining plantains onto the pan to roast in the oven. What's coming out of the oven now are my fajitas, which I'll check using my thermometer to ensure they're cooked to medium well. I'll flip over the steaks and the plantains and then remove the steaks from the sheet pan to cool off. I'll quickly slice up a large onion and add it to the sheet pan. I'll toss the onions with some olive oil, the citrus garlic, and cayenne, and into the oven they'll go to roast. I'll check on the corn and peppers and bring them onto the counter to stir up, then I'll put them back into the oven to continue roasting. Now I'll really begin my lunchtime meal, and I'm making buffalo chicken salad. I'll need a lot of celery for that. Since I knew I had so much celery to chop up, it felt like a huge relief to use the veggie chopper, and I still had to cut the celery down to size so it fit inside the chopper, but what an easy, simple process. I am so glad that I got this thing. I'm using it on the small dice setting, and I'll get to work on chopping up this rather large pile of celery. Now that my celery is so finely diced, I'll get out my extra large bowl and I'll drain the water from my chicken and add it inside my big bowl. Next, I'll check on my peppers and corn. Looks like it's done, and I'll get it out of the oven and then I'll come back to the chicken. I started shredding the chicken with forks, but then I realized I could do it much faster by using my hands. It was just a little hot. So shred up the chicken and then I'll add in my diced celery, although I had a few more leafy pieces, so I used the chopper, but I finished chopping them by hand. Next, I have a shallot that I'll use a chopper for too, and once I do, I'm going to put them into a bowl, and then into that bowl I'll add some water and let them soak for a bit. Letting them soak will make them taste a little bit more mild, which will make all the difference for meal prepping versus cutting them fresh every day. And really, just on a personal note, I love cooked onions all day, every day, but raw onion anything, not a huge fan of. I don't really love how that flavor kind of seeps into everything. So I love that I can soak these and just kind of make them a little more palatable with getting the oniony shallot flavor, but not too overpowering. I'll come back to my large bowl and mix everything together. For now, I'll set this aside and into the fridge while I get my rice out of my rice cooker. I'll portion out the rice into the containers next and then add some of the corn and pepper mixture on top. Next, I'll get my onions and plantains out of the oven and add them in as well. I was so impressed with how well the plantains turned out, and I mean, look at that, yum. A little taste test in the middle, double confirm for me. This is definitely a meal to look forward to. My steaks have rested and cooled off enough that I'll slice them up into thin strips and a little taste test here confirms this is delicious. Next, I'll add my fajitas into my containers. And next I'll make my buffalo sauce, and I'm making my high protein version that I adore. I'll get out yogurt, mayo, and hot sauce along with some green onions for topping. I'll start with my yogurt, then add hot sauce and mix well. Then I'll add a bit of mayo, but I'm not a big mayo fan, so I won't add a ton. I'll stir it again and then add some more hot sauce and stir again. Really, I'm just looking for the color to be slightly red/pinkish. I'll also add some cayenne because I do love a little kick, and I'll stir again. I'll do a little taste test and then add salt to taste. Once I'm happy with it, I'll pour it on top of my chicken and celery in my big bowl, and I'll mix it all together. A quick taste test told me I could add some more cayenne, so I obliged, incorporate it well, and then portion it out. I almost completely forgot about my shallots because I planned to mix them in with the rest of the ingredients, but I drained them and I'll sprinkle them on top alongside my scallions. I'm serving this meal with a whole wheat pita that I'll add fresh every day so it doesn't get soggy. And just like that, after a few hours of work, making meals I'll love eating, I can be off to enjoy the rest of my day. I can stay focused on the challenging week ahead of me without worrying about running to the grocery store, overspending on takeout or restaurant meals, and my kitchen only needs cleaned once this whole week. I'll likely need a nap after I finish all of this, but I cannot imagine it any other way. Remember to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment with any feedback you've got. Wishing you a wonderful week ahead.